This isn't a tornado warning.
Right, very subtle feature on velocity. Let's go take a look at it, what he's talking about. So he's near Mountain Park. If we can switch over to velocity full screen so I can see it. All right, so that's going to be just northwest of Mountain Park. It looks like there is a subtle pulse up. There are a few of these circulations within this. We're watching it. This has really gone up. New tornado warning for this circulation that's pulsed back up west of Frederick. We're see where the red meets the green. That's where we have the possible tornado. This had previous reports of funnel clouds with it. The latest motion is taking it more of a traditional easterly track. So this will be taking the tornado warned storm into the town of Frederick. If you are in Frederick right now and you're listening, you need to get in your safe spot. If you aren't already, you've been under a tornado warning for quite some time. So your circulation is heading your way. We're keeping a close eye on that one. And then moving off to the northeast, nothing for the metro. Happy to report that. Off to the northwest, there's that previous hailstorm. I'm going to skip past the hail reports. Take us into northern Oklahoma. Earlier, that storm produced up to grapefruit size hail. And then severe storms continuing to move into northern Oklahoma. This is where we have Corey Inman. This is going to be our next round of storms that continue to drop south. Can't stress it enough that we are going to have a flooding risk.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
Had about half a foot of water, at least closer to Ponca City. That happened over the weekend, which we need the water, right? But now we're entering a flooding threat whenever we have slow moving storms like we're seeing right now. At this time, this is still about 1-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds with this line that goes all the way up into Kansas, and this line will gradually make its way south. So I do think it could make it to the OKC Metro, but that may not happen until the early morning hours. Let's go back to Corey Inman for the latest in northern Oklahoma. Corey, we know you're keeping a close eye on this one. All right, we'll check back in, but his shot really tells the story, doesn't it? You can see the storms heading south across northern Oklahoma. So this is what's going to be dropping south later into the evening and overnight hours. Let's take it back to southwestern Oklahoma right now, where we continue to track these tornado warnings. All right, we have an update. Let's go actually really quick to the maps, and then we'll check in with Chris McBee. So let's go back to the maps because I have a good update, Max 3, to show you real quick. This storm over Cooperton, there we go. The part over Roosevelt no longer has a tornado warning on it, so I am happy to report that. And it continues, though, east of Cooperton, moving to the south and east. So I was showing you earlier that new rotation forming east of Cooperton. That's for the new tornado warning. So let's go ahead and zoom on in. Very heavy rain with this as well. Look at those winds blowing out over Roosevelt. But this is why we have a tornado warning. So I was talking about the winds blowing out. And sometimes when you have winds blowing out on the northern edge of the winds is where you can have a spin up. And that's exactly what's happening right now. This is located southeast of Cooperton, and it's going to be veering slowly off to the east. So it's barely moving there. It is more in a rural area, but it looks like it is trying to head towards Highway 115. So that is our new tornado warning. Again, it's located just southeast of Cooperton. Farther south, we continue to have tornado warnings as well. Frederick, tracking that tornado warning. And this is really wrapping up here west of Frederick. If I can switch over to velocity, here we go. So we were watching earlier potential funnel trying to form near Mountain Park. Let's go to Chris McBee. He's on top of that storm right now. Chris, there's still plenty of circulations in that area. So we're watching near Cooperton. We're also watching west of Frederick, and this could easily cycle back up. Right now, it looks like it's mainly straight line winds, but there is a little bit of circulation still trying to hold on north of Mountain Park. Go ahead.
Yeah, there definitely is a little bit of circulation out there. You saw that they did drop the tornado warning. I'm kind of repositioning right now, glancing that way. I'm not really seeing too much. It doesn't look nearly as gnarly as it did a few minutes ago with any kind of lowerings or funnels or anything like that. Pretty flat wall cloud at this point. I'm heading south a little bit to try to get back over towards the Cache area for this ongoing tornado warning that's there east of Roosevelt and northwest of Lawton. So trying to get into that area to get a better eye on that, but keeping a close eye on the storm to my west, and I'll let you know if anything else develops out of that, Emily.
Thanks for that report. All right, let's take it to the meteorologist, Mike Moore.
Emily, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
So we have a storm down in southwest Oklahoma, down by Frederick. Tornado warning there, and then there's some rotation in between Mount Scott and Saddle Mountain right now. Tornado warning there, and then we have storms up in northern Oklahoma that are gradually pushing to the southeast. Those will make a run at the metro later tonight, about 1 to 2 a.m. in the morning. But good rains up in northern Oklahoma, and a severe thunderstorm watch has been extended deeper into the evening for a little bit larger part of our state as these storms come in from the north. Here's the big view. There's nothing directly approaching the metro right now. These will make a run at the northern and eastern sides of the metro in that 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. time frame. Pretty good rains and some damaging winds and some golf ball and a little bit bigger size hail up in northern Oklahoma. Lots of severe thunderstorm warnings here. Grant County, west and north of Medford. So a little bit of rotation there, so that's worth noting. There's some rotation coming up near Wakita right now, so the hail size will be coming up with that. And then north of Arkansas City, over to the east of Arkansas City, a lot of water there. And the motion here southeasterly at around 30 miles per hour. So Grant County, Kay County, into Noble County, and then Pawnee County and Osage County. These are all heading your way. There is
one new tornado warning for Oklahoma
in Grant County, so that storm hail sizes may come up a little bit. Let's go to Corey Inman. He's up there looking at that point blank and tracking that for the folks up in the northern part of our state. Corey?
Yeah, Mike, I'm on Highway 11 directly south of Waukeeta. You're looking back into the area of rotation that you were talking about. Had a persistent wall cloud in there for about the last 15, 20 minutes. Every once in a while, it'll pull some scud up in there and get it to spin just a little bit. Rotation's broad. I haven't really had any areas that have really tightened up and localized, but that whole thing is turning real slow. So you can see, pan the camera to the right here for you, and you can see to the east of Waukeeta just a tremendous amount of heavy rain and hail back in there. Waukeeta is getting ready to take it on the chin with a big hail course. So we're right here just to the south of this lowering where the rotation's at, Mike, and we're going to track it on into the Medford area.
Yeah, that has been intensifying a little bit, so the hail size is coming up here in Grant County. So again, near Waukeeta and to the west through north of Medford up toward Highway 81 and Renfro. That's where that is heading. So some pretty good size hail. And
This is a tornado warning.
So that storm has been coming out of Kansas here on Max 1 and moving to the southeast at about 30 miles per hour. That storm right there. So again, there's Waukeeta right there. Here's Medford. Here's Renfro, Highway 81 right here. So some mid-level rotation there, picking up a bit, moving east-southeast.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Iowa and Missouri.
Time of arrival. So we're talking about Waukeeta right now, Medford at 8:44, Blackwell at 9:05, Lamont at 9:14, and Ponca City by 9:32. So they are severe right now. No tornado warnings in this part of our state, but there is some mid-level rotation forming near Waukeeta right now. So there's Stillwater, there's Perry, there's Pawnee. They'll be rolling toward that part of our state as we head toward around 10 to 11 p.m. this evening. So some pretty good rain up here in northern Oklahoma.
There are 2 new warnings affecting Kansas and Missouri.
Vaporized and gone away. It was loosely part of that overall complex that produced all that hail out there around Watonga and out toward Oakwood and Fay and Thomas. 4.4-inch diameter hail, and one of our storm trackers has a 6-inch dent in his truck. And lots of severe storms down in southwest Oklahoma. Ongoing tornado warning here, yes. That rotation has weakened between Saddle Mountain and Mount Scott to the northwest of Medicine Park. Has a ongoing tornado warning, and new rotation has increased now to the south of Apache. So that rotation has come up, and that's a brand new tornado warning lifting to the north. So that's from south to north. So you folks in Apache, it does include you. Between Boone and Apache, stay alert. You're under a tornado warning, large hail damaging winds, and that storm came up very quickly on the front side of all this rotation back here to the west. So lifting to the north right there. So heads up for the Apache area. That is a brand new tornado warning for you. That rotation has weakened quite a bit near Saddle Mountain and northwest of Mount Scott. A lot of flooding in through here and a lot of hail, bunch of hail, a lot of golf balls, some tennis balls from time to time. This rotation here is no longer a threat. That whole thing is gusted out and there's no tight circulation there at all. So that's good news for the Roosevelt area, good news for Comanche County. Still has rotation here on the west side and northwest side of Frederick. So tornado warning here down in Tillman County in far southwest Oklahoma, and that rotation is centered about 6 miles west-northwest of Frederick. Still spinning, but not spinning quite as quickly as it was earlier, but an ongoing tornado warning in the Frederick area right now. And right now the most intense storm appears to be this one coming up on Apache. So lifting from south to north, pretty good spin right there on the Comanche-Caddo County line, lifting due northward. So Boone and Apache right here, heads up for you as that lifts to the north into Caddo County. That is a brand new tornado warning right there. And kind of broadening out here, there's Lawton, there's Chickasha right there, Rush Springs, Grady County, and flooding, flash flood warnings widespread in through here as well, with over 6 inches of rainfall and hail damage and flood damage in Kiowa County. So all this action down here in the southwest parts of our state. The most serious storms are the one here near Apache, lifting north, new tornado warning there. And to the west-northwest of Frederick, about 6 miles, that circulation center is right there as well. So this is going to go on for a while longer here. Again, a brand new tornado warning in the Apache area. So that leftover circulation near the Wichita Mountains has weakened. It's weakened quite a bit. It was earlier between...
Full. Let's take this back full. This is a much better vantage point. More NYPD officers are making entry inside Hamilton Hall. Remember, we do not know how many students are still occupying the building. We don't have a good sense of that. I want to read, though, from some of the reports coming out of Columbia today and from the university spokesperson. The university spokesperson, Ben Chang, said this earlier in a statement. He said, "We regret that protesters have chosen to escalate the situation through their actions. Our top priority is restoring safety and order on our campus. We made it very clear yesterday that the work of the university cannot be endlessly interrupted by protesters who violate the rules. Continuing to do so will be met with clear consequences. Protesters have chosen to escalate to an untenable situation, vandalizing property, breaking doors and windows, and blockading entrances, and we're following through with the consequences we outlined yesterday." It's about 9:30 there in the Big Apple on the Upper West Side. You're watching multiple NYPD officers gain entry into Hamilton Hall. That is what we are seeing right now. All right, Linda Schmidt has a better vantage point. She posted this on her account on X, the social media platform. Remember, Linda Schmidt, we've been relying on as well with Fox 5 New York. Take a look at this. I'm going to drop this here. That is the Lenko Bear. That's what it's known as. That's what it's referred to, that the NYPD have used. It's a zoomed out vantage point of how officers are gaining access and entry into Hamilton Hall. Back out live to Hamilton Hall.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Iowa.
All right, and you can see there the reason you're seeing some of these officers with cameras so they can document as they take into custody these student demonstrators. Okay, look at this. You see there on the hip of so many of these officers, those are the plastic zip ties that they will use to handcuff the student demonstrators who have occupied the campus building. All right, so remember, all week we have shown you scenes like this of law enforcement moving on student demonstrators and arresting them. We saw it on the campus of UT Austin. We saw it on the campus even today near Tampa at the University of South Florida. We saw tear gas, flashbangs being deployed as well. What we have not seen yet in this entire protest movement are law enforcement officers making access and gaining entry forcibly there. I say forcibly because they broke the window there to get into a campus building. This is a first in the protest movement. The protest movement started here at Columbia University 2 weeks ago, gained traction on campuses nationwide, and you can argue this is the culmination of what we are seeing after countless threats by university administrators like President Manoush Shafiq, who warned students would be suspended for violating campus policies, that some would be expelled for violating campus policies, that, remember, that 2 p.m. Eastern deadline for many members of the tent encampment on the lawn in front of Butler Library to vacate. Remember, that deadline came and went, the encampment still up. And from what I understand, the reason why some of these student demonstrators occupied Hamilton Hall very, very late last night was to move inside of a building so they could stay here on campus and double down and entrench themselves further and riling up university administrators. And so you really see this clash here with the university administrators, the students themselves, outside agitators, and now law enforcement here. So we're going to keep reading some of the reporting to suggest what has gone on here, and because there's so much context to get to. So you're watching so many of these law enforcement officials gain access, make entry inside there of Hamilton Hall on Columbia's campus. What I want to read to you is this, and this has to do on Capitol Hill, but it's related and it's important because the House Judiciary Chairman, Jim Jordan, the Republican, and other GOP committee members, they sent
There
letters
is one
today
new severe thunderstorm
to Secretary
warning
of
for
State
Oklahoma.
Antony Blinken, to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, questioning if there are national security risks posed by some of these anti-Israel protesters, and if student visas are being revoked, and if they're not being revoked, whether they should start being revoked. So they sent 2 letters, Jim Jordan did, and members of the committee, to Blinken and Mayorkas today, requesting information on those very questions with the deadline of May 14th. In the letter to Mayorkas, lawmakers are asking for information by that date related to the number of non-citizens, including those with student visas, who have endorsed or espoused terrorist activity during some of these anti-Israel protests. That is somewhat tangential to the movement here, especially there on Columbia's campus. All right, we have more of a zoomed-out vantage point there. You can see many NYPD officers standing by in the foreground. They zoom back in, many going in to arrest some of these student demonstrators who are holed up in there on this campus. And you can see them there. We have not seen any students yet come out. And remember, we did see, I'm going to show you another shot. We did see those buses. All right, so now the picture is becoming clear because I was over this scene last Monday on another campus at NYU. The buses came in, the NYPD buses came in. They are being deployed to transport the student demonstrators who will inevitably be arrested, and they will be detained and processed. That is why those buses are outside the campus of Columbia University. You see there, this is one of the main entrances to Columbia. Let's go back there live. More NYPD officers gaining access into the building, into Hamilton Hall, to arrest the what they would call occupiers in the building.
There is one new tornado warning for Iowa and Missouri.
All right, so I want to offer some context as well, because remember when we brought you some of these law enforcement actions on places, on campuses that are private institutions, like Columbia is, like NYU is, law enforcement has to be invited. They have to be requested by university administrators because it is a private institution, because it is not a public institution. And so University leaders have to request this law enforcement action. That is what we have learned throughout the course of this entire protest movement here. All right, and you're going to see very, very soon here, I'm going to put up two shots that we have. You're going to see very soon here, in the lower right hand of your screen, I would imagine, some of the student demonstrators who are going to be in handcuffs, leaving Columbia University's Hamilton Hall after being arrested. I would imagine you're going to be seeing that very soon after it looks like, let's take this live and full yet again, it looks like all of the NYPD officers who have been dispatched to do the arresting of these students have gone in. And so we're waiting now for the students themselves in the zipper tie handcuffs to come out of Hamilton Hall. And so that is what we await. We have that live picture. I believe that is going to be this camera that we have there. And so we'll keep that up as well. All right, so this is what you can see right now. NYPD officials have corralled the media. That's what it appears that we are watching at the moment. They have corralled the media behind this NYPD police bus here, no doubt so they can catch a glimpse of some of the student detainees who will be ferried out of Hamilton Hall in handcuffs. Presumably, we have not seen that yet. I would imagine that is going to happen. It seems like an NYPD media liaison is leading some of these press members to a better spot to catch a glimpse of some of these arrests being made here. So all the action right now that you've been watching for the last 20, 25 minutes, all the action from what we can tell is happening inside of Hamilton Hall. Okay, this is the first time we have seen some of these student demonstrators arrested. That gentleman wearing a Columbia hoodie, giving the peace sign. We do not have audio on this. We're not going to bring the audio up because viewer discretion is advised. And so you can see there NYPD officers pushing the media back. And so it seems like we now have official confirmation that arrests have been made. The media is trying to get them. These detainees will be put on these buses, and they'll be taken to be processed to the nearest local NYPD precinct. This comes 24 hours, almost 24 hours, after students in an unknown number, I'm not entirely sure of the total number of students, occupied Hamilton Hall. They carried out furniture, they barricaded furniture against entries, they broke windows. This was after that 2 p.m. Eastern deadline to vacate the tent encampment came and went. We also know Columbia had said that some of these students have been suspended. They threatened some of the Hamilton Hall occupiers with expulsion. That has not been confirmed just yet. Whether or not any students have been expelled due to these protests here. All right, we do have some reporting in from our Fox 5 New York colleagues. It looks like we have a lull in some of the activity on Columbia's campus. Let's take some of this right now. All right, I want to put up this tweet from Fox 5 New York's Teresa Priolo. She says this, all right, we were correct. That was the campus. City College protest right now, 9:30. It's right now 9:42 there in the Big Apple. City buses going in front of this video. Priolo captured there something on fire on the campus of City College. We have another tweet as well. Let's put that up, I believe, from Fox 5 New York's Linda Schmidt. All right, so it looks like protesters are burning flags, possibly flares, on the campus of City College in New York. These are storied institutions in the city of Manhattan. Linda Schmidt says the NYPD moving in to take back Hamilton Hall. We have brought you those scenes as well. Let's go back out live to those scenes. Here we have it. All right, you can see there NYPD officers standing by to the gates. This is on the back side. This is on Amsterdam. And you see there NYPD media liaisons pushing back the media, because I would imagine very, very soon you're going to see many of these student demonstrators who occupied Hamilton Hall this very time last night come out in handcuffs and be put on these buses there to be transported to some of these NYPD precincts to be processed for criminal trespass. The media there rounded up and corralled. All right, there you see the media. All right, so we're going to keep this shot. We have Linda Schmidt on the scene there. We are refraining from bringing up the audio because viewer discretion is advised. All right, we have a different vantage point. Let's take it. All right, so now you can get a better glimpse of how much law enforcement is on the scene. You also get a better glimpse, too, of some of these demonstrators who are in handcuffs, and they are waiting to board these buses to be transported. So that is further down from this vantage point that we have. Remember, we also have this vantage point as well from the back side of the building. So that's the back side of the building. NYPD officers went in through the back. We also have the vantage point here from the front there. All right, Andrew Kraft back here. I'm wondering whether or not we're going to get some type of update from NYPD today on camera. Remember, we heard from NYPD officials. We heard from New York City Mayor Eric Adams earlier today in a press conference with the NYPD. So we'll have to see whether or not that's in the offing for tonight. That remains to be seen. That's the question I have.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Kansas.
To be seen whether or not we'll also get a statement in from university administrators. Remember, the president of Columbia University, Manoush Shafiq, is under a lot of pressure. Some House Republicans are calling for her to resign over her mishandling of this, or her alleged mishandling of this.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
Was yesterday. And so now students will be studying for their final exams. Remember, commencement activities are still planned for May the 15th. It has not been canceled yet. Remember, much like some of these other protests and some of these other Gaza War movements on campuses nationwide, one of them has led to the cancellation of the commencement ceremony there at USC in Los Angeles. So we have some movement on this shot right now. This is the backside of Columbia University, I believe, on Amsterdam Avenue and 116th Street, if you're familiar. And so remember, we just saw law enforcement, 20 minutes ago, gain access forcibly. They broke some windows to get access to Hamilton Hall to arrest these protesters. All right. Looks like we have an individual leaving the gates there, not in handcuffs. So you'll remember student demonstrators, the organizers of these demonstrations, met with university officials yesterday. Negotiations broke down. Columbia saying they were not going to budge on some of the main demands, the primary demands from these demonstrators, one of which is to divest. Well, what does that mean? That means divest. They want the university to divest from its investment portfolio in its endowment of any entity or business that has ties to Israel. That is what that means. The university would not do that. They said as much. And so that was a key demand not being met by the university to some of these student agitators. All right, so we have yet another live vantage point as well. I believe this is Linda Schmidt's shot there on the other backside of the building. All right, we see more NYPD officers making their way down this street here. Not entirely sure what street this is. They're now running here. We have another vantage point. Let's take it. Here you can see as the NYPD are moving in to clear out or at least assist with some of these demonstrators who have been arrested. All right, so we're monitoring all of this here. I want to come back on camera as we approach the top of the next hour. And so I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here as we guide you through these incredible scenes coming out of New York City tonight on the Upper West Side, outside the gates of Columbia University, but also inside the campus itself here as we watch NYPD officers make entry into Hamilton Hall, NYPD buses on the scene there to inevitably transport some of these student demonstrators. And so you can see there some of these buses, they're leaving, or maybe they're moving from the scene. Not entirely sure what's going on there. We also have a live vantage point outside the gates of Columbia. And you can also see the media. They are kind of corralled in. Maybe some of these are just your everyday New Yorkers as well, who are trying to get a glimpse of the melee, of the activity. And so let's set the stage. Let's set the scene. This is happening at Columbia University, yes, but it's also been happening at places like NYU, City College, George Washington University, Johns Hopkins University. I'm moving from east to west. The University of Michigan, the University of Minnesota, the University of Central Florida, the University of South Florida, the University of Texas at Austin, also USC, UCLA, and so many other campuses nationwide. But this is quite the culmination of almost 2 weeks of activity there as protesters took over the lawn in front of Butler Library, setting up tent encampments, which is against Columbia University policy. That is what is at stake here. Now, remember, many of these student demonstrators and their supporters claim their First Amendment free speech rights are being violated. The university says that these demonstrators have the right to protest, have the right of free speech, though the university would say you got to do it within policy. All right, so we are hearing from Columbia University. We are learning that they have issued some type of statement. We'll get that to you in just a moment. This is the statement they issued earlier this morning from Ben Chang. He's a university spokesperson. He goes on to say, students occupying the building face expulsion. So that is a threat of expulsion. We'll see if the university follows through on that. All right, you have some of these NYPD officers kind of going in the gates there. So I'm not entirely sure. We have not seen kind of a slew of students yet come out. That remains to be seen. Remember, we don't know how many students. Statement they issued earlier this morning from Ben Chang. He's a university spokesperson. He goes on to say, students occupying the building face expulsion. So that is a threat of expulsion. We'll see if the university follows through on that. All right, you have some of these NYPD officers kind of going in the gates there. So I'm not entirely sure. We have not seen kind of a slew of students yet come out. That remains to be seen. Remember, we don't know how many students occupied Hamilton Hall. We just don't have that figure. All right, so Ben Chang goes on to say in the statement from this morning, students who did not commit to the terms we offered are now being suspended. Those students will be restricted from all academic and recreational spaces and may only access their individual residence. Seniors will be ineligible to graduate. It goes on to say this is about responding to the actions of the protesters, not their cause. Also, as we said yesterday, disruptions on campus have created a threatening environment for many of our Jewish students and faculty and a noisy distraction that interferes with teaching, learning, and preparing for final exams and contributes to a hostile environment in violation of Title VI. It ends by saying the safety of our community remains our top priority. So that is how we have been covering this throughout the course of not only the last 2 weeks, but tonight as well. We have some of our reporters standing by on the scene, kind of outside the perimeter of Columbia University. So possibly we may be hearing from the NYPD. I'm not entirely sure on that. Don't hold me to that. But that is what happened when the NYPD moved in last time. A week and a half ago, they had a press conference. They announced more than 100 students and people were arrested. So I would imagine maybe the NYPD will do something similar. Remember, New York City Mayor Eric Adams had a press conference with the NYPD, a joint one earlier today. All right, let's zoom in here. We have another vantage point. All right, you can see there the gates. It looks like NYPD officers are communicating to the media something or other. I would imagine, though, that many of these student demonstrators will come out of these gates, board the buses. That's what they are waiting for here. Let's see if we can listen to the natural sound on the ground. Stand by.
Greetings from TornadoHQ.com. There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Kansas.
All right, so we're going to keep this shot up here. So from what I'm being told by my producers, we are just getting in a statement from Columbia University. This was from moments ago. Yes. From moments ago. All right, I'm going to keep the shot up. We're not going to put up the statement just yet, but I'm going to read the statement because we don't want to miss anything in case some of these students, you see the photographers there turning their lights on. So we could be seeing some of these students exit the gates there after being arrested. So Columbia University responding to this NYPD action tonight. They say this in a statement. A little after 9 p.m. this evening, the NYPD arrived on campus at the university's request. This decision was made to restore safety and order to our community. It goes on to say, we regret that protesters have chosen to escalate the situation through their actions. After the university learned overnight that Hamilton Hall had been occupied, vandalized, and blockaded, we were left with no choice. Columbia public safety personnel were forced out of the building, and a member of our facilities team was threatened. We will not...
This is a tornado warning.
The leadership team, including the Board of Trustees, met throughout the night and into the early morning, consulting with security experts and law enforcement to determine the best plan to protect our students and the entire Columbia community. We made the decision early in the morning that this was a law enforcement matter and that the NYPD were best positioned to determine and execute an appropriate response. Let's put the statement up while we wait. The final paragraph says this.
There is one new tornado warning for Oklahoma.
We believe the group that broke into and occupied the building is led by individuals who are not affiliated with the university. Sadly, this dangerous decision followed more than a week of what had been productive discussions with representatives of the West Lawn encampment there. So, all right. Okay, we have more of the statement. All right, let's read more of the statement here. They go on to say this. We severely curtailed the number of people on Morningside campus starting Tuesday morning. Over the course of the day, we updated our community on access to campus buildings, and we'll continue to do so through the next few days. The decision to reach out to the NYPD was in response to the actions of the protesters, not the cause they are championing. We have made it clear that the life of campus cannot be endlessly interrupted by protesters who violate the rules and the law there. It goes on to say, early Tuesday, protesters chose to escalate to an alarming and untenable situation, including by vandalizing property, breaking doors and windows, blockading entrances, and forcing our facilities and public safety workers out. And we are responding appropriately, as we have long made clear we would. The safety of our community, especially our students, remains our top priority. All right, you see there that caveat, especially our students. You pair that with the other line in the statement, that Columbia University officials believe the main agitators, the main occupiers of Hamilton Hall, are not affiliated with the university. That is quite something. I mean, that is what I latched onto there in that statement, back out live to our shot there outside the gates of Columbia University. So we await any more movement, any more action. We're approaching the top of the next hour. It's almost 10 o'clock there on the ground in the Big Apple on the Upper West Side. All right, we're going to stay, obviously, with this story. We're preempting some of our other coverage. There's a lot of stories left to get to tonight, but this is the main one, the predominating feature of this story. The NYPD, at the request of Columbia University, being called in to oust some of these demonstrators from Hamilton Hall after they occupied that campus building last night forcibly. You heard there from university administrators, some of these demonstrators threatened facilities staff and others in the building. The university maintains they believe the leaders of the occupiers in Hamilton Hall are not affiliated with the university. So that is quite something. That is why the NYPD were called in at the request of the university itself. Remember, private institutions have to do that. They cannot, law enforcement cannot just go in, much like they could on a public university campus. All right, let's listen. Seems like NYPD officials are speaking to the media.
Try to force it out of me. It doesn't work. Right? All right, guys, you got it? No. No tear gas was used. No tear gas. The NYPD does not use tear gas. Okay, we use distraction devices. All right?
Could you elaborate?
Distraction device is something that's thrown in, makes a very loud bang, and it distracts the individual so the police can then move forward. Right? Thank you. As I get more, I will let you know.
All right.
There is one new tornado warning for Oklahoma.
By an NYPD official clarifying to the media that no tear gas was used. He then went on to describe what is known as a flashbang, a very loud
There are two new warnings affecting Missouri and Oklahoma.
A distraction, as law enforcement usually tries to disperse crowds. All right, so now we finally see some of these individuals who are in handcuffs, in the zip tie handcuffs, so we apologize there. All right, let's go out to yet another vantage point we have of that same NYPD official. Speaking to the media yet again, I'm not entirely sure if that's on delay or not. It was on delay. It was the same official. Okay, so interesting distinction. It seemed like the NYPD possibly might have been preempting some of the descriptions by the student protesters. Maybe that is why they got out there on the record very soon saying no tear gas was used. We did see tear gas being used today on the campus of the University of South Florida. That is not this campus. This is Columbia University. He said flashbangs were used. They produce a very loud sound with a flash in order to disperse a crowd and distract the crowd.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
Tear gas was not used. So we finally have a better vantage point. The reason they're so far back and we're so far zoomed in is because the media is kept quite back. All right, Fox 5 in New York, they are on this story here. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's go out to them for more coverage.
Move in, you can see officers going in on a ladder, climbing through the window of Hamilton Hall, which protesters stormed overnight. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. I'm Steve Lacey.
And I'm Natasha Verma. Of course, this has all been escalating ever since the protests began at Columbia almost 2 weeks ago. But tonight, the NYPD has moved in just hours after Mayor Adams told protesters, quote, "This must end now." And it's not just Columbia. This is video just into our newsroom of CCNY in Harlem, where police are moving in with barricades. And we've got a live look at Columbia right now.
This is a tornado warning.
Live team coverage tonight. Linda Schmidt and Jessica Formoso, both live in Morningside Heights, just outside Columbia. Teresa Priolo is at CCNY, where protesters are currently clashing with police. Let's start, though, with Linda, who is on the Hamilton Hall side, where protesters have been holed up tonight. Linda.
That's right. Good evening, first of all, to both of you. And there are literally hundreds of police officers out here, most of them in riot gear. Now, about 9:13, and I'm being very specific here, I know, 9:13, we received an email from the NYPD saying, quote, "The operation at Columbia has commenced." And that's when we saw police in riot gear move in here. Go ahead and take a look at this video here. This is a major piece of equipment that is used by the NYPD's ESU. And what this truck truck does is it allows them to get up next to a building and be able to access a building above the first floor. And that's what they did here. They all of the officers moving up the ramp after it was lowered next to the window, and then they broke through the window to get into Hamilton Hall. What they are doing here is they are retaking Hamilton Hall from the protesters who violently broke into Hamilton Hall overnight. They had used hammers to break glass doors in order to gain access to Hamilton Hall. And once they are inside there, they are moving through Hamilton Hall right now. They are searching for the protesters, most of whom both the mayor and the police commissioner say are outside professional agitators who have come in and who have hijacked what were supposed to be peaceful protests here on the university. And they believe that most of the people, the students here, that they were manipulated by these professional agitators. They are inside Hamilton Hall right now. They will be making arrests. At some point, they will be coming out of Hamilton Hall, but we don't know when that is going to happen yet. But I want you to go ahead and take a look at the other video as well. This is from overnight, showing those protesters, again, violently breaking into Hamilton Hall. They used hammers to break through a glass door. And then once they got inside, police and the mayor say they were intimidating other students who were inside. They wouldn't let other students into the hall who were supposed to be allowed access to the hall. In addition to that, they were using actual police-type barricades and bringing them into the hall, as well as using furniture to help barricade themselves, and they were intimidating the students who were inside. Now, at a news conference, and this happened earlier this evening, both the mayor and the police commissioner saying that what had happened here had turned into chaos, and that the tactics overnight showed that there had been an escalation, and that, quote, things out here had reached the next level, and there was a real cause for concern. They also said that they have been in constant contact with officials at Columbia University throughout all of this, and that Columbia tonight, a senior city official telling me that Columbia University earlier, about 45 minutes ago, reached out to the NYPD and said, okay, you can come on campus now to clear everything out. The mayor at the news conference earlier tonight that he had given, along with the police commissioner, basically just giving everybody an ultimatum, saying, look, this is your opportunity to get out. This is your opportunity to leave the encampment. This is your opportunity to leave Hamilton Hall. And he actually urged parents to tell their kids, hey, get out of there. That was the warning sign that they were probably going to be moving in this evening because there was such concern. In addition to that, I am being told by a senior city official that a wife of an actual indicted terrorist has been on campus during these protests. Another thing that created major concern for the city. Now, like I said, the mayor and the police commissioner holding a news conference earlier tonight, and here's what they all had to say.
We urge those and everyone else violating Columbia's order to leave the area and leave the area now. And if you are a parent or guardian of a student, please call your child and urge them to leave the area before the situation escalates in any way. This is for their own safety and for the safety of others.
These protests have been and are being influenced by external actors who are unaffiliated with universities, some of whom have been known to our department and others for many years for their dangerous, disruptive, and at times criminal activity associated with protests for years.
For the individuals that are inside of Hamilton Hall, they will be charged with burglary in the 3rd degree, criminal mischief, and trespassing. For the individuals that are in the encampments outside, they will be charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct.
Okay, so as you can see right there, the NYPD, they are not messing around with this. They are going in full force, and they have
There is one new tornado warning for Oklahoma.
The university has had enough as well, and there had been growing concern, especially over the past 24 hours, after they had broken into Hamilton Hall and barricaded themselves inside, intimidating other students as well, they say. So as far as what's happening here now, it just started to rain, and we're just waiting to see what's going to be happening with Hamilton Hall, with the officers that went in there using that major piece of equipment again, which is used by ESU to access buildings in this way. But they are definitely making arrests. There are some of the demonstrators around us. They are chanting, "Shame on you, shame on you." Sometimes they start cursing. That could happen at any time. But as for right now, that's what's happening at this moment. I know Jessica Formoso, my colleague, is on the Broadway side of Columbia University, and you guys are going to be hearing from her in just a moment. But for right now, that's the very latest from here.
All right, Linda, thank you. And we do actually want to go to Jessica now, again, on the Broadway side of campus. Jess, I understand that you actually saw the NYPD moving in. Can you talk to us about what you saw?
Natasha, that's right. We are in the middle right here between Amsterdam and Broadway on West 114th. I'm going to set the scene for you so I can confirm for you tonight.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Iowa.
Come out, arrested by police. The NYPD moved in, and we.
This is a tornado warning.
University. Now I'm going to take you guys.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
You guys are watching right now. That was from earlier over on Broadway, where we were when police were moving in, police in riot gear, and as they were coming closer to campus, there were pro-Palestinian protesters cursing at police, saying that they were the KKK. Shame on you. But again, we saw a lot of police coming onto campus, and around 9 o'clock, like Linda said, that's when they moved in. They couldn't move in until Columbia University administrators gave them the green light, and around that time, that's when Columbia said, come in, you're allowed to come onto our property. And just minutes ago, we witnessed protesters, student protesters being walked out in zip ties by NYPD officers. There were a number of buses out here waiting for those protesters. One of them, filled with protesters, went down 114 onto Amsterdam. You're going to take a look. Jimmy's going to show you right there. There's a number of protesters, a number of police. Barricades are up, and they were chanting, "Shame on you, shame on you." Another thing I want to show you here, Jimmy, we can just turn the camera this way. The dorms are right across the street, and you can see police, NYPD officers standing outside every single door. No students are allowed out or in of their dorms. We were told that they were told by university officials to shelter in place, and you're taking a live look. Students looking outside their windows at times chanting, cursing out the NYPD, and now you're seeing police officers moving towards Amsterdam. I don't know. We're just this is all unfolding as we're speaking, so unclear why they're heading that way. We do see up 114 going towards Broadway, and Jimmy, we can just point out this direction. There's still two NYPD buses waiting.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
So it's unclear if more students are still inside the building and they're waiting to remove them. We have to say, though, that the NYPD has been very courteous to the media, allowing us to get as close as we are to see those arrests being made and those students being walked out. And now we're zooming into Amsterdam right now. As you can see, the police are walking towards Amsterdam, and you can hear the protesters that are out there yelling at police. This is a live look of what's happening here. Earlier, though, while we were on Broadway and 116th, when we saw police getting ready to come into Columbia University, we were able to speak to a faculty member. He didn't want to give us his name. He told us he was from the medical school at Columbia University, and you know, he was honest. He said that he is very sad to see the situation, but did say that the administration was negotiating with these students. They even offered and said that they would invest money into Gaza to help those in need, but said, you know what, these students didn't want to negotiate. Let's hear from him a little bit more.
and this is very disruptive to all the kids that are graduating, and it's sad for them, and it's too late to reschedule and put it into Yankee Stadium or some other venue, and it's just unfair. At this point, we have to do something that will take care of the university and follow the rules, and that's it.
Gotta let them protest. Gotta let them come out and do what they do. You know? This is a free country. Can't block over this. Send riot police. Send squads out here.
Yes, they're coming out at us.
You're gonna be on camera when you come back.
Sorry, so as you can know, this is a fluid situation, and we're just trying to see here what exactly is happening over by the buses. I do see police officers over there standing outside those buses, so unclear if more students are going to be brought out. We know that a lot of officers, as you saw live when we were reporting, walked down 114th onto Amsterdam, and right there you're hearing protesters. Now, where we are,
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Iowa and Missouri.
Broadway. It's unclear where this entrance leads us to, the building. I want to say could possibly be by the encampment, but I'm not 100% sure at this time. I'm going to investigate that to see what this entrance leads us to. But again, I can confirm that arrests have been made and police did remove protesters. They might be students. They might not even be students from Columbia University, because as you know, the mayor and the commissioner saying earlier today that a lot of these protesters don't even come to Columbia University. They're just agitators. But I'm sure police will be updating us as to how many arrests, who has been arrested, and the charges they're now facing. But again, those who are here at the dorm, they are not allowed in or out of that building. Police officers standing guard at every single entrance. We can see these students, I'm looking at them right now, that they're outside their windows, hanging outside their windows, just looking on everything that's happening here, just unfolding. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you, both of you, Steve and Natasha. And of course, we're going to stay right here, try to see if what else is happening and if more arrests will be made. Again, like I said, there's still 2 NYPD buses here waiting. So,
all right, Jess, you know, obviously this is an incredibly delicate situation there. Just on the ground, what's your perspective on the percentage of people around you who are pro-NYPD versus anti-NYPD, if you had to guess?
No, there are more anti-NYPD. I mean, every chant that we have heard. I did see earlier on Broadway, and I counted. There were 5 Jewish students who were thanking the NYPD as they were making their way onto campus grounds. Everybody else there were cursing them out, saying, "You are the KKK. Leave. You know, why are you in riot gear?" So yeah, definitely anti-police here tonight.
Jess, you mentioned that you saw some protesters coming out in zip ties, arrested by police. Do you know an idea of how many you saw coming out who may have been arrested? Have any of them been boarded then into any of those buses that you saw right behind you?
Yes, 1 bus filled with protesters left before we came on the air. That I can confirm. I'm not sure how many seats that bus has, but I can say it was possibly maybe a dozen, if not more, and arrested, I would say, from where we were, because we were able to move closer. But when it started happening, we were behind a bus that was blocking our view. So I actually saw someone walking out, and that's when I said to Jimmy Mitchell, our photographer, I said, look, 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 they're coming out. And we zoomed in. We were able to get that footage.
are staying calm inside the dorms as people share their own opinions about what's going on while they don't have the freedom of movement at this moment. All right, and the tensions also escalating at CCNY, where protesters have been clashing with police tonight.
Fox 5's Teresa Priolo is live in Harlem with the latest. Teresa, what do you see going on out there?
Take place here in a little bit. Behind me, you see the NYPD. They are lined up as they have been for the better part of, I would say, the last 45 minutes or so. They also have barricades on trucks. They are standing by as protesters let their voices be heard here. It does feel as if we are at something of a tipping point here at CCNY. This marks the 6th day of protests. Each day they grow bigger and bigger. Chants of free Palestine, and as we saw earlier tonight, the occasional firecracker lighting up the night sky. Now, police clashed with those inside of what's known as the Gaza Solidarity encampment, a little earlier today. There has been a large police presence here, some in riot gear. There are also some reports of pepper spray and some arrests. Scrums of protesters being hauled off by cops as well, and we have video to show you of that. Over the chanting of the crowds, you can hear the NYPD telling people to disperse or risk being arrested for disorderly conduct. Back out here live, as many might know if you're following the news on this, it was announced that CCNY is now fully remote. I was talking to some Jewish students here who don't feel comfortable going on camera, but they said that there are essentially two parts of the campus here. There's the north side where we are, and then there's the south side. Both campuses are shut down, but those students who live on campus are being forced to walk all the way around and attempt to get in through another entrance because so many of the entrances to the college are shut down at this time. A lot of people going by, honking their horns, certainly, again, a lot of police presence, and a lot of chanting by protesters. If you saw in that video a little earlier, the most active part was right under that arch there, and that's where they were waving flags and also setting off firecrackers. At one point, the fire department came by, but again, things at this point do look calm. We are hoping that it stays that way. There are empty NYPD buses standing by, should that not be the case. That's the latest from Harlem tonight. Send things back to you guys in the studio.
Very well. All right, Teresa. A tipping point indeed does appear to be taking place as we speak. Now, protests have moved outside of the NYU campus. The university said it will take disciplinary action against students who refuse to leave the encampment on campus. It came after protesters defied a noon deadline yesterday from the school to get out. They'd been on the Green Street walkway since Friday afternoon. The school believes that outsiders played a role in these continuing protests. So far, officials have not given any details about exactly what punishments they may be facing. All right, we want to bring in retired NYPD Detective Michael Alcazar, who spent more than 30 years with the NYPD. He now teaches at John Jay. Sir, thanks for being with us tonight. I'd like to just first get your opinion. Obviously, this is a very delicate situation, high-stakes policing. What's your perspective when you see the video we just showed earlier tonight?
It's a massive undertaking by the NYPD. The response was appropriate. They have strategic response groups on the scene. They have their critical response teams, ESU, and when they made that entry into the building, they were just trying to evacuate, like the professional agitators. So I think they did a good job. It looks worse than what it was because of all the protesters screaming, but when I'm watching it, it looks like the NYPD had it in pretty good control.
So the building was taken over earlier today, I should say, Hamilton Hall. I mean, what do you make of the response time of, 9:13 p.m.? Was that them waiting then for Columbia University to give them the all clear to enter campus?
I'm not sure when they received
There is
the
one
all
new
clear.
severe thunderstorm
It might
warning
have
for
been
Oklahoma.
strategic because people that work in Manhattan or go to school in Manhattan or leaving work from Manhattan were home already, and I think they did that purposefully so that there's less people in the streets, except, of course, the protesters.
And, sir, I was wondering if you could sort of drill down on what the term outside agitators means to you in the context of these protests. Are these people being run by foreign governments? I mean, what exactly does it mean when you hear that term coming from the mouth of the mayor?
I mean, it has the potential for foreign governments, but We've seen this before in the past in New York City. There's always professional agitators. You know, it's a big stage. They want to push their agenda. We've seen it in Zuccotti Park many years ago. So there's always people that take advantage of a situation. They're not necessarily, pro-Palestine. They might just be professionals that want to create havoc, and that's what they do. And it's good that the NYPD identified them, arrest them, and remove them from the situation so that we could protect the people that are actually protesting and, practicing their First Amendment rights.
I mean, really unbelievable sights that we saw at the top of this show of NYPD officers entering Hamilton Hall through the second floor window. I guess, walk us through. I mean, is it that they're trying to enter above the protesters? What's the mindset behind that response and going that way?
Yeah, potentially. They probably, maybe the agitators blockade the entrance to the upper levels. So that's why they want to enter through the second floor and then push them down to the lower levels and put them in custody.
Yeah, and certainly we have these protests taking part at other schools in New York City and throughout the country too. Can you just talk a little bit about the significance of getting tonight done properly, and the time frame do you think that these officers are working under? Is the mission to go in there, sort of dial down the temperature and just try to get it done correctly, however long it takes, or once they enter that building, is the clock ticking and they want this done as soon as possible?
I think they want to do it as safely as possible. Well, the NYPD doesn't want anyone to get hurt. They don't want it to grow any bigger, in my opinion. Columbia kind of run the risk of letting it grow a little bigger. They waited a little longer than other universities, so it just made the job a little bit more difficult for the NYPD. I feel like they should have nipped it in the bud a little bit sooner, maybe a few days ago. And again, I understand they want the safety of the students. Columbia is concerned about lawsuits, notifying the NYPD, so they were a little bit hesitant calling in the NYPD, but they've seen it's growing out of control, and I kind of blame Columbia for that. They let this happen, and now here we are, the NYPD's cleaning up their problems.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Also, in a lot of the footage, we're seeing metal risers. So obviously, Columbia's graduation prep is underway. I mean, they're going to have commencement in 2 weeks. Do you think, based on what we're seeing tonight, do you think that's an actual reality, having thousands of people now come to campus for commencement in 2 weeks?
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
To, do it at Yankee Stadium or somewhere else off campus.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is enough time. They're going to call the protesters. They're going to remove the professional agitators. The protesters will probably not be allowed in the campus after this. They might still protest like on the sidewalks and the streets. We'll have a detail of police officers to keep that under control, make sure it's peaceful, and hopefully, I think 2 weeks is a good time frame, and hopefully the students can celebrate their graduation.
All right, Michael Alcazar, we appreciate your perspectives as always. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, social media, of course, has been blowing up as police have moved in on Columbia tonight.
And Sharon Crowley has been monitoring it all and is live in the newsroom with the very latest. Sharon.
Yeah, that's right. Social media filling up with people posting about what is happening on Columbia's university's campus. Let's get right to some of those videos. A student group identifying as pro-Palestinian. You can see them struggling with police there. You can see their interaction there. Cops moving them along, though. We have another video if you want to cue that one up next. You will see in it a giant emergency vehicle that we've been showing to you a couple of times as the NYPD scuffles with them, and then as you can see that vehicle approaching Hamilton Hall to move students out. Protesters broke windows and occupied that academic building at Columbia University overnight. This after they had demanded the university divest from Israel. This after they, of course, had been camping out on the campus there in tents. A little after 9 tonight, though, the NYPD entered at the university's request. Leadership team telling Fox 5 they tried to negotiate with the student demonstrators, but it did not prevail. Earlier in the day, the university curtailed access to the campus ahead of this move by the NYPD. Now, we just got a statement from a spokesperson at Columbia University. It reads in part that the decision to reach out to the NYPD was in response to the actions of the protesters, not the cause they were championing. We have made it clear that the life of campus cannot be endlessly interrupted by protesters who violate the rules and the law. And Natasha and Steve, just a little bit more from that statement. They wanted to let people know that this had become a dangerous situation, one that they had to address immediately for the safety of the students and the faculty, some of whom were directed out when those students occupied Hamilton Hall.
It's been on full display. All right, Sharon, thank you. And for the latest on the protest at Columbia and on campuses across our area, you can download the free Fox 5 New York News app. Of course, we're all over this breaking news tonight as police, NYPD, enter the Columbia University campus and start making arrests.
All right, let's take another live look at Columbia. Our reporters fanned out all over Morningside Heights. We're going to have more team coverage straight ahead.
All right, Andrew Kraft back here on Live Now from Fox. Thanks so much for being with us here. You've been relying there, watching there, our friends at Fox 5 New York, in addition to us here at Live Now, as we have told you this story tonight, shown you these incredible live images coming to us from the Upper West Side in Manhattan, near Columbia University and on the campus there. We have our live pictures still. We're going to stay with this story. Let's take that. And you see there many of these NYPD officers standing by there as they have vacated and ousted the occupiers of Hamilton Hall there on the campus. So we're going to keep this up. We're also going to go to a quick commercial break. We have kind of preempted commercial break so we can get you this story live, raw, and unfiltered like we always do. Okay, you see there other members of the NYPD who appear to be walking out with detainees. That is about the best shot we have. Let's take another shot. All right, you can see there a little bit zoomed in. As you can see there, more and more law enforcement walking through the crowd there with some of these protesters in handcuffs. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Hey, I'm Heather Sullivan with Sullivan Smart Sense. Okay, we all know you can save money at the grocery store buying generic or store brands, but did you know you could save an average of 40%? CNET compared prices on 20 items and cut the bill from $125 to $75, and that's savings that can add up.
Well, it looks like I may be out of a job unless I turn to TikTok. It seems that has fast become the #1 source for financial information among young people. Trends like loud budgeting, frugal February,
there is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
The trust of followers, but experts warn, be careful whose advice you take. Just because a tip is trending doesn't make it true. I'm Steve Noviello. That's my 2 cents. Spend it wisely.
Hey, it's Dr. Mike. New data shows that 7 out of 10 Americans look up their health woes online. Now, this is important and good, but you need someone to guide you through the shark-infested waters of healthcare. So when you go to your healthcare provider, make sure you have a discussion. If they won't listen, find a new one. I'm Dr. Mike Sirigliano with the Fox Medical Team.
If you are relying on Amazon reviews to help you decide on a purchase, heads up. According to FakeSpot, the following categories are the most likely to have bogus or biased feedback: watches, Christmas decor, watch bands, sweaters, and pullovers. But the top spot for fake reviews? Slippers. FakeSpot says 71% on Amazon have fake reviews, with thousands of products and barely any name brands. I'm Steve Noviello. That's my 2 cents. Spend it wisely.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft, and our continuing coverage right now of these protests and arrests happening on the campus of Columbia University. Fox 5 New York back on the air with more. Linda Schmidt has this report. Let's take it.
NYPD Emergency Service unit. It's called the Bear, and this is a major piece of equipment here, a vehicle which allows then the NYPD and ESU officers to gain access to a building which is above the first floor. In this case, they entered Hamilton Hall on the second floor, breaking in through a window, getting inside, because their main objective here was to get inside and get those protesters, most of whom were outside professional agitators. That's what the NYPD and the mayor both said earlier tonight.
That the energy can go, which then creates pretty intense thunderstorms that we're seeing clustered here between Altus and Lawton. But as it does slide towards I-44, it creates a tricky travel forecast for you moving forward. So I-44 for truckers out there, for anybody maybe trying to beat the traffic or maybe still be out late doing a long road trip. I-44 from Burke Burnett out in Texas over the Red River heading towards Oklahoma City. We want to kind of pull off to the side, maybe take an hour nap, rest up, because these storms are fairly robust. And what we're highlighting for you here and what's been circled is a gust front. Now, you can barely see it there. It's just that darker green shade. We're going to zoom in on it for you here. And that is an intense push of wind. So that could be potentially 60, 70 miles per hour with the wind as it moves. Fairly common when we talk severe thunderstorms, but it is going to be impactful for folks out in Davidson, heading towards the Red River, making its way into Texas there as well. So gusty winds are going to be another key feature moving forward into the overnight hours. That tornado threat also starting to dial back for the Texas Panhandle and for the Oklahoma Panhandle. Not completely zero, because we do still have tornado warnings that are in effect, because we have seen some rotation. But at this point, these tornado warnings are probably completely rain wrapped. Look at all of this intense, heavy downpour. Because we have the clashing of the air masses with the winds, all it can go is up and then just be dumping rain. We're also seeing quite a bit of lightning with these storms as well, just speaking to the intense updrafts. The counties of Comanche, Kiowa, and Tillman. Tillman, I've mentioned your county quite some time. You have probably been under a tornado warning for the last 3 hours, if this is how long that storm system has been lingering in this area. Now, we haven't seen any damage reports come out of this, which is great news. So more than likely didn't necessarily see a long-tracked, strong, intense tornado on the ground. Maybe a brief touchdown there for a little bit, then pulling back up. But still, I would be in your tornado safe place, or more so steps from it, as we're not necessarily seeing a tornado actively on the ground at this moment. And right now we don't have a tight couplet in this general warning that concerns me enough to say that you need to be in that spot. But at least know where it is. Make sure that you are checking into the forecast every 30 or so minutes, even as you head to bed. If you are ready to go to bed, although it is 9:30, maybe you could stay up a little extra hour or two, just wait for the storms to kind of dial back a little bit. I would maybe give it another 2 hours before we're looking at just the wind and hail component, and that tornado threat really dials back. But for Cache, 10:17 p.m. Central Time, that's when this storm is going to be overhead. So we're going to give that one maybe another 30 or so minutes, maybe a little longer than that. At Lawton, you are also going to start to see some pretty strong thunderstorms, primarily after you guys probably head to bed, as these storms are kind of lingering. They're just now starting to move, but if we're looking at the camera here, staring at this big cluster, so you're looking at US 62 near Fort Sill, Oklahoma, but the lightning that's cracking and all that rain and that darker cloud looking pretty ominous, that is towards the tornado warning near Comanche, Kiowa, and Tillman County. So that's what you're staring at. But the fact that we're not seeing torrential downpours in front of this camera right now just shows that, hey, all of the intense thunderstorms are located just towards the west of this particular area, this being more of a heavily trafficked spot in the Sooner State. Right now, we're showing you a vertical stack of what this storm is doing. We're looking at around 40,000 feet into the air, so these are some pretty towering cumulonimbus clouds here. We do have some inflow being pulled into this storm, but I'm not necessarily seeing this rotation that is ultra concerning all the way down to the ground. At the mid levels and upper levels of this storm, we certainly do have that rotation, but at the surface, that's not what we're seeing at 10,000 feet and below. So that's why we're not necessarily saying, hey, confirmed tornado warning, there's a tornado on the ground. That's not the case. And I feel pretty confident and safe in saying that so far. But we have seen this particular cluster tighten and loosen and tighten and loosen. It's been this ebb and flow here that is of concern. So at least that's why I say just keep coming back into to the forecast, checking up and making sure that you're okay here, because we'll keep an eye on it as well. The hail size, we're looking at this point 1.75 inches. So it is substantial hail as well. That could cause some damage in and of itself. And if you look just a little farther out towards the west of the tornado warning, we see this heavy patch of hail just to the north of Hedrick, but Hedrick could see some pretty significant hail over the last hour or so. Hail size here, we're looking at around 2 inches. This is radar estimated, though. We're not necessarily saying this is exactly what happened, not seeing any storm reports quite yet, but they will be piling in. We've been tracking this out for quite some time. Maybe a lot of people are at home heading to sleep. But my best advice for folks out in the southern plains, primarily for Oklahoma and Texas, is when you go to bed, turn your phone on. Make sure you have your volume turned all the way up, notifications turned on. You can download the Fox Weather app if you don't already have it. You can turn the notification settings on. Our app will notify you if we do or if there is a tornado warning for your area, so you can at least get those updates if needed, so you can still at least get a good night's sleep, again, as that tornado threat starts to kind of curtail. But it will resurge back again. We are talking tornadoes into Wednesday as a possibility, including damaging wind and hail. Here are some of the storm reports, though, that we have seen. Over in Manitou, 1.75 inches. Frederick, 2 inches in diameter for that hail. So radar was estimating around 2 inches, and that's exactly what they did see there. That is a real person that had a picture of this or said, I measured this, it was 2 inches. So that is completely verified there. Over in Blair, Oklahoma, 1.75 inches. But these storm systems are just now nearing Interstate 44 here. Moving forward into Wednesday, we do have all threats on the board. The biggest threat is going to be for damaging wind and hail. Tornadoes not completely ruled out, as we have more discrete cells that will begin to pop up across the dry line feature for the central and southern plains, but also near Dodge City and just to the south of Colby, Kansas. That's where we have that level 3 out of 5 for the severe weather threat, just to the south of Interstate 70. And towards the west of Interstate 35 and Interstate 135. The low pressure system, that center of circulation there, right in and around Kansas. So that's going to add a little extra rotation where we could see a few supercells spawn some tornadoes. Just the ongoing threat of severe weather as we get into the month of May tomorrow, which is the most active climatologically time of the year. We'll be right back with more.
Your impression of what we're seeing on campus right now. You just heard Linda's report. It seems like a lot of the students have cleared away who are outside the buildings. And also just walk us through that escalation we saw overnight when people with hammers broke in and occupied a building. It seemed like that was clearly the tipping point for the NYPD to move in.
Thank you. Thank you. What we see going on is what we see going on air, and then there's a subtext. And within that subtext, multiple layers. What do I mean? Well, what we think we're seeing is college protesters, right? But there are professional protesters in that crowd. There are agitators in that crowd seeking to create anarchy, looking to create that tipping point to make it go viral in reality, if you will, because the world is watching what's happening, and how this either escalates or de-escalates will dictate what we see in the coming days.
I think, where Linda was at 116th Street, it just seems like it's quieted down. She counted maybe a couple of protesters. Do you think, from what happens now, do you think that they've contained the situation and they're moving people out? What happens now as we move forward?
Well, what's going to happen is what's going to be interesting to see is how this plays out. those arrested, are we going to see them, with, the victory sign, waving flags in the air as they get out with no charges pressed? And then they'll negotiate college amnesty, if you will, ergo rewarding this bad behavior. That would be concerning to me. Versus, we hear of these no-tolerance policies. If there ever was an instance to institute it now, to your point, when they were breaking into the building, that should not be tolerated, and that should be prosecuted to the fullest extent.
Right. We heard the NYPD went in with the blessing of the university tonight. What is your perspective on that negotiation? Do you think that was the NYPD constantly asking Columbia, enough, let us get in there, or was that Columbia being like, please come in and put an end to this?
Well, this is all going to be supposition on my part. For me, I'm in safety and security. That's first and foremost. But there are people thinking about their jobs. There are people thinking about elections. There are people thinking about the headlines tomorrow, and that's above my pay grade. But you can bet dollars to donuts that was going on. If I make X decision, will I be hired? Will I keep my job, or will I be fired? So the long answer to your short question, I think the NYPD was ready to go. What I'm not understanding is if a crime was committed on campus, let's say they were saying that someone in the janitorial staff was held against their will. If that's case in point, Columbia has no say whether the police come in or not. The police go in. Crime's being committed. Someone's being raped. Someone's being shot. A crime is occurring. It's not like the Indian Nation reservation where Columbia has the autonomy to allow or not allow in. So I'm interested to hear if any crimes actually occurred and the cops did not respond to that, or were they just waiting, allowing the tents, essentially a squatters situation.
Right. It's not a sovereign nation. That's a fair point you make there for sure. All right, Bill Stanton, we appreciate your perspective. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, for the latest on the protest at Columbia and on campuses across the area, you can download the free Fox 5 NY News app.
And, of course, we're all over this breaking news tonight as police enter the campus and start making arrests. This is a live look at Columbia University. As we've been showing you all night, our reporters fanned out all over Morningside Heights, Broadway. We'll have more team coverage straight ahead.
All right, we do thank our Fox 5 New York colleagues. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us here. Let's take a quick commercial break as well. When we come back, we'll continue showing you these scenes outside of the Columbia University campus, including there on the streets, Amsterdam and Broadway, all sides there of Hamilton Hall, as still so many NYPD officers are on the scene as well there. You see them behind some of those barricades there as well, as they have arrested, not entirely sure how many, but student protesters who hold up there inside Hamilton Hall for the better part of 24 hours until the university called in the NYPD, requested them to oust some of these quote-unquote outside agitators. That's the term you've been hearing lately. So let's take a quick commercial break. More from the NYPD and Columbia University when we come back.
I'm Heather Sullivan with Sullivan Smart Sense. Rental prices have skyrocketed 18% in 2 years, according to Redfin. So here's some tips to reduce your rent. Get a roommate.
Greetings from TornadoHQ.com.
Consider privately owned rentals. Offer to pay a few months up front for a discount, and offer to do repairs or office work for a lower rent.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, A lot of people
There is
believe
one
we are
new
living
severe
in the last
thunderstorm
days.
warning for
Current
Oklahoma.
news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm. A new series, now playing only on Channel 1, Atlanta.
We have this one back. We'll keep an eye out. We did kind of, while we were in the commercial break, see...
This is a tornado warning.
Here to give us a sense of what exactly has gone on. We're also relying on our Fox 5 New York colleagues as well. All right, so it does seem like some of these NYPD officials will be speaking to the media about what exactly happened. Okay, let's listen. All right, it looks like that NYPD officer speaking in Spanish there. You know, the media tries to get some of these comments from law enforcement. We're not entirely sure either if the NYPD will have somewhat of a formal press conference to let us know whether or not the building has been cleared. And if so, how many individuals they took into custody. Those are questions that I have. Let's take this shot here. Yet another vantage point. You see many of these NYPD officers standing by there. That is the shot there of Alexis McAdams, Fox News correspondent. Back out live to this shot here, where we just wait now to see whether we'll get official word from the NYPD about what exactly transpired all tonight, to get a better sense and better glimpse. How many people were arrested? We know what they're going to be charged with. We just don't know how many in number there were, and whether or not they kind of surrendered peacefully or not. So remember, I'm going to read to you, this is a letter from Minouche Shafiq. She's the president of Columbia University, a letter that she sent to the Deputy Commissioner for Legal Matters at the NYPD, his name Michael Gerber, Deputy Commissioner Gerber. She says in the letter this, all right, actually, no, let's listen.
The bear. Okay, they entered with guns drawn at some point, were you hearing? I don't know that, and I did not see that. Okay, and they used some sort of distraction sound device? It's called the flashbang. And what that is the doors were barricaded with large conference tables, chairs, soda machines, and a flashbang is used to distract individuals so the officers can make entry. Sorry, you said the doors were barricaded with? Barricaded with like conference tables, chairs, soda machines. Okay. And the windows were also barricaded or not barricaded? The windows, they were actually taped up with newspapers, so you couldn't see in. Anything about students resisting, or? I have no reports of any injuries, and I did not get any reports of there being resistance.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
All right, so we were listening to that NYPD official, and you heard him there say no reports of injuries, and that some of the, or all of the protesters surrendered peacefully. He said essentially they did not resist arrest here. I was reading for you this letter sent today by President Shafiq there at Columbia. to Deputy Commissioner Gerber of the NYPD's Legal Matters Bureau. I'm going to read one of the paragraphs in the letter. All right, let's take this other shot here. We know this camera is kind of going all around there. We have another vantage point. Shafiq asks of Gerber this: the events on campus last night have left us no choice. With the support of the university's trustees, I've determined the building occupation, the encampments, and related disruptions pose a clear and present danger to persons, property, and the substantial functioning of the university, and require the use of emergency authority to protect persons and property. Now, we do apologize. Looks like some of our camera shots are just getting stabilized there as we continue to report this story. So once they do, let's put up now, you heard there that paragraph from President Shafiq to the NYPD. We are getting quite a lengthy statement in tonight, just in about the last 30 minutes from the university. Let's put that up here as well. I'm going to read it in its entirety. It goes as follows. A little after 9 p.m. this evening, the NYPD arrived on campus at the university's request. The decision was made to restore safety and order to our community. We regret that protesters have chosen to escalate the situation through their actions. After the university learned overnight that Hamilton Hall had been occupied, vandalized, and blockaded, we were left with no choice. Columbia Public Safety personnel were forced out of the building, and a member of our facilities team was threatened. We will not risk the safety of our community or the potential for further escalation. Goes on to say this: the leadership team, including the Board of Trustees, met throughout the night and into the early morning, consulting with security experts and law enforcement to determine the best plan to protect our students and the entire Columbia community. We made the decision early in the morning that this was a law enforcement matter and that the NYPD were best positioned to determine and execute an appropriate response. We believe the group that broke into and occupied the building is led by individuals who are not affiliated with the university. Sadly, this dangerous decision followed more than a week of what had been productive discussions with representatives of the West Lawn encampment. They go on to say this: we severely curtailed the number of people on Morningside campus starting Tuesday morning. Over the course of the day, we updated our community on access to campus buildings and will continue to do so throughout the next few days. The decision to reach out to the NYPD was in response to the actions of the protesters, not the cause they are championing. We have made it clear that the life of campus cannot be endlessly interrupted by protesters who violate the rules and the law. They go on to say this: early Tuesday, protesters chose to escalate to an alarming and untenable situation, including by vandalizing property, breaking doors and windows, blockading entrances, and forcing our facilities and public safety workers out. And we're responding appropriately, as we have long made clear we would. The safety of our community, especially our students, remains our top priority. All right, back out live now to Columbia University and the environs there on campus. As the rain is coming down.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
And you see, okay, we do see finally some of these buses filled with detained protesters. Viewer discretion is advised. You see some of their fellow kind of foot soldiers in the movement on the sides, waving to them, cheering to them in solidarity. They refer to each other as comrades. That is something we have heard over the course of the last few days. You see they're making heart signs with their hands. And so now we're going to get a glimpse, even as the rain comes down, of some of these protesters. Let's take some more of these shots here as these buses make their way. And you can see some of the protesters now detained, now arrested on the scene there in those buses. So wanted to make sure you saw that live, raw, and unfiltered. That's what we are here at Live Now, if you're familiar, or if you're not familiar, if you're just coming to us for the very first time. And so, like I said, we're waiting to get any confirmation whether or not the NYPD are going to speak to the press today. We just don't know that. And so we are approaching the top of the next hour. It's almost 11 o'clock there on a Tuesday night. So many just out to see the commotion.
So many out to stand in solidarity with some of them who have been arrested. Some Jewish students out there, according to some of our reporters on the ground, thanking the NYPD for being there. And you can see a lot of these protesters kind of huddling now under some of the overhangs to get out of the rain as the rain is coming down even harder. So we also still have some of our Fox 5 New York coverage as well here. Let's get back into that. We're going to stay with this story at least up until the top of the hour, and in the next 3 minutes or so, let's take that.
Outside agitators surprise you? I mean, I remember in the beginning of it all, we saw these tents. They looked all the same. They looked professional in a way, and now we're kind of getting confirmation of who may have been behind this. Does any of that surprise you?
No, it's not surprising. Like I said before, it's New York City. It draws a lot of these professional agitators. If Columbia let this go any further, I fear it would have been more dangerous for the students and the staff. Like we had in Occupy Wall Street, that just was overdrawn. We definitely didn't want that to happen again in the colleges, especially with students. In the past, with these agitators and these criminals, they committed assaults and rapes in these areas. So it was good that Columbia finally requested the NYPD to remove the protesters and these agitators from Columbia's property, because it should have been done several days ago for the safety of the students and for the safety of the staff.
All right, Michael, we do appreciate your perspective. Of course, the moment of truth happening right now at Columbia and CCNY in Harlem. Things really started to take shape about 2 hours ago, under 2 hours ago, but a lot has happened in that time. We'll be right back in just a moment.
All right, and we do thank Fox 5 New York there. Of course, they are our sister station there. Not all of them are outside agitators. Of course, some are inside as well. Some are students at Columbia University, though the university is under the impression that they've said as much, that they believe the leaders of the Hamilton Hall Occupy movement there were not affiliated with the university. So I thought that was noteworthy. We're going to reiterate that fact as well. So even at this point in time, the NYPD are arresting more of these demonstrators there. You can see. So, all right, it is 8 o'clock here on the West Coast. It is 11 o'clock at night there in the Big Apple, and this has been our predominating story for what, the last two and a half hours. Just want to reset here. Like I said, I'm Andrew Kraft. We're going to take yet another quick commercial break. When we come back, though, you'll be hearing from some of these New York officials, lawmakers on Capitol Hill about what they want to do about this burgeoning and exacerbating protest movement taking over campuses nationwide, law enforcement being called in, and some of them, much like you've seen now tonight at Columbia. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Hey, I'm Heather.
This is a tornado warning.
Byrne joined Fox Weather Now earlier today with an update from Marietta.
Well, Ian, I definitely think people could use some more time to deal with the cleanup, especially considering that we have all of this debris all over the place, and thinking about more damaging winds potentially hitting us is a scary thing when you've got things like trailers just on front lawns and in grass. This is a sight that you'll see all over the place in a number of towns across Oklahoma, but where we are in Marietta is where they saw the strongest tornado rating so far this year. The National Weather Service says the winds and everything that they saw as far as damage goes, particularly with some of the big businesses, deemed it an EF4 rating. And some of the worst damage we've seen here is at the Dollar Tree Distribution Center. This is a massive building. The Fox flight team flew overhead so we could get a bird's eye view with the 1 million square foot warehouse where 170-mile-per-hour winds ripped out walls and ceilings. More than 450 people worked there, and 11 people were actually inside when the tornado hit. Luckily, no one was hurt. Another huge loss for the community is the only grocery store in town. That's totally destroyed. So relief groups like Oklahoma's Baptist Disaster Relief, they're setting up mass feeding stations, and people who live here really need it because almost everything is shut down in town.
Homeowner and tell them that we're there to help them clean up this debris, and we do that at no cost to them. We're a volunteer group. These folks that come from all over Oklahoma trained to do this, just to offer their time, and for us just to be able to help them gives them some hope, and actually does, in the midst of this challenge, puts a smile on their face.
And, you know, people really need that kind of support when they're in such devastation. The governor was actually here earlier today touring some of the damage. He says with some of these huge buildings that we lost, the economy is going to take a big hit. We've got the Dollar Tree Distribution Center shut down. We've got the only grocery store in town gone, the hospital shut down right now, and a nursing home. He says the unemployment office is going to be stepping in to help fill in the gaps, but I think that's another big concern people have right now. This is a population of almost 3,000, and almost 450 were employed by that Dollar Tree distribution site, so that's a lot of jobs that are up in the air right now, Ian.
Katie, big point to make there. That's homes destroyed, but also a livelihood's gone too. Drone pictures from that Dollar General facility is just stunning. That was the awful work of the first EF4 tornado in more than a year in this country. The last one was back in March of 2023. That was in Iowa. Fox Weather's Katie Byrne in Marietta. Thank you.
And the restoration efforts are still underway in the Cornhusker State. University of Nebraska alum and Fox Weather's very own Robert Ray joined America's Weather Center with an update on their cleanup efforts.
Hard-hit neighborhood in Elkhorn, Nebraska, and look at this home behind me. This is the home of Tammy Reynolds. It is on its side. It is continuing to shift as the wind picks up and blows here, and we're worried about later this afternoon as this area has been full of volunteers, and many of them potentially will have to leave this area later as these storms make their way back in. But I just want to get a word in with Tammy Reynolds, whose home you just saw and we're standing in front of. Tammy, I appreciate you. We talked yesterday. But this is day 4 after this tornado. You survived. What is it like at this point? Is reality unfortunately setting in?
It is. Still waiting for my adjuster to get out and assess the damage. There's not much holding the house up. It shifted. The foundation's shot. It's resting on a fence post.
Yeah.
I've had the house since it was new in '78.
1978.
Yes. Yes, it was my mother's house. I'm just pretty broke up about it. I'm really thankful for all the volunteers coming out to help. There's no way I could do this myself.
Everything inside there, have you been able to salvage any things that mean something to you, photos or mementos?
Things have been salvaged out of the house. It's too dangerous to even go in there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're alive.
We're all alive. There were no fatalities in this. So that's a blessing there. My neighbors were home. They survived. Their house probably didn't fare as well as this one. Their house is just gone.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can all rebuild.
And you will. And you will. Tammy, we're with you. We're gonna stay in touch on Fox Weather, and you know, hopefully assistance will help, and you'll get your insurance adjuster out, and life will move on. And I want to talk to one of the volunteers that's in this area helping you as well. Absolutely. And I'm going to walk over to her real quick. Tammy, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll get back with you in a second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Ellen Thompson, you're live on Fox Weather. Appreciate it. You're from this area.
Yes.
You're volunteering.
Yes.
The amount of volunteers is just astonishing. What is your message right now as a large truck, excavating truck, I know it's loud, comes at us?
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
For families like Tammy and everybody else in this community, that the people that we love, we're just here to support them in any way we can. So we've got food coming in, we've got churches around here donating their time, we've got people coming in from all over the country, but as you know, Nebraska is known for their great people. And so we've even had military families say they've never seen anything like this.
No.
The people that have come together to support our families and community have been astonishing. So we just feel blessed to be able to provide food, shelter, anything else that these families need, clothing, you know, totes, we just got it all. So
yeah. Ellen, power to you, power
Absolutely.
to Nebraska. I appreciate your time and what everybody's doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Yeah, keep up the great work. That's the Heartland, Michael. It really is. And, you know, that's the thing about this neighborhood. As these potential threat comes in, again, later today, officials do want a lot of these volunteers to try and take a break as we assess what the storms are going to be. In the meantime, we are going to head to Minden, Iowa right now, get in the vehicle and cross the border. It's about 50 miles from Elkhorn, the suburb of Omaha. We're going to go to Minden and see how they're doing. Hopefully, we can give you those pictures shortly in the 3 o'clock hour. Michael?
All right, Robert Ray, I won't hold you up, but thank you so much for the interview with Tammy. It so puts me there where you are in Elkhorn, Nebraska.
Fox Weather at Night, we'll be right back.
There is one new tornado warning for Oklahoma.
Alfred, I'm coming in. Thanks, Alfred.
Dad, how many times have I told you just download the app?
Control your garage from anywhere. Download MyQ today.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now and get this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. This book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms that can help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. And if you call right now, as a bonus, we'll throw in a free annuity rate report. We've researched over 1,200 annuities summarizing the rates and benefits for you. So don't miss out on this opportunity because supplies are limited. Call now and find out how you can get up to 33% more income in your retirement, and you'll receive Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report as an added bonus. Both books are yours free, just for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-257-3901. That's 800-257-3901. Again, 800-257-3901.
I started experiencing some slight symptoms of ED. She asked me, "Do you love me anymore?" And so I knew I had to do something about it.
I came across RexMD, and you go online, you answer the medical questions.
The medication is at my house within a couple of days.
My partner thinks that I am a rock star.
It's literally life-changing.
Because it is effective, I say I'm on a second honeymoon.
Get started today with RexMD.com.
At Rue La La, feel like $1,000,000 without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
And welcome back into Fox Weather at Night. We're showing you a video of a monstrous tornado near
There are two
Heartland,
new warnings
Iowa.
affecting Oklahoma.
This was last Friday. It has been a very significant stretch of weather with a severe weather outbreak and a tornado outbreak occurring over the weekend. But in addition to tornadoes, we are also going to be talking that threat for flooding as we have more storms targeting the same areas moving forward this week. We've already seen as much as 8 to 12 inches in some very localized spots throughout the Heartland here that I just kind of circled for you. But again, very localized where we've had that significant of rain totals. But notice in the same area that I circled through Friday, we could expect 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches. And if you do happen to live in that unlucky county or city that already had a ton of rain and are just get unlucky enough to see an additional 3 inches, we could be talking somewhat significant flooding impacts moving forward for the next couple of days. Primarily, this will be...
This is a tornado warning.
And locations in your neighborhood that easily get flooded when you have some pretty intense rain. That'll be another problem there as well. But we are at Fox Weather at Night. We do like to give you at least a little nugget of good information amidst all of the just heartbreak and devastation that we've had to cover here. For the Corn Belt, we have some areas that do need this rain. It will be very beneficial. For portions of Iowa, they have been under extreme drought, I believe, since back in 2020. So think back to, I don't even want to say it, but think back to 2020. It was not a good year. And that's how long they've been dealing with this drought. And this is for a very agricultural savvy area. They grow a lot of things in this part of the country. So this rain will be much needed and well received by the soil once it finally is given a breather to then absorb it all. In total, this is where the area we're seeing of the most significant drought. We could see 1 to 2 inches if they get lucky enough, 2 to 3, but that will cause some flooding impacts going into Wednesday. Tuesday, we saw a low-end threat for flooding, but the flooding for the Trinity River near Dallas, Texas, and as it heads a little farther to the north of Houston, has been pretty substantial. So the Trinity River is the one spot that we'll watch closer as we head into Thursday. But for Wednesday, it will be far eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, the area that did get hit with some pretty intense tornadoes over the weekend. So that will be an impact when it comes to the cleanup process for a lot of these communities like Elkhorn, like Minden, Crescent, Iowa, and into Bennington, Nebraska as well. We will take the secondary look here where just to the south of Oklahoma City, we have another elevated threat for flooding. This is near Sulphur, Oklahoma, near Holdenville. So all of these spots that have just seen just the wrath of Mother Nature, and unfortunately they have to deal with it again. As we get into Thursday, we will watch that threat increase for I-20, primarily in the Texarkana region in the south and southeast. So I-20 travels will be a bit difficult as we get closer to the weekend, especially with graduation right around the corner for all my Southeasterners out there. Any long distance road trips, make sure you really look into the roads and into all these little cities that you'll be traveling along the way. See how the weather's been impacting them as you get closer to your long distance travels. For the Lone Star State, notice by Thursday overnight hours, early morning, you will just see a torrential downpour of rain that could come with wind and hail as well. That will move towards Texarkana and the border with Texas and Louisiana across I-20 for Thursday morning.
And Mayor Eric Adams earlier today, this was before all of the commotion and activity, as NYPD, at the request of Columbia, moved in to clear out Hamilton Hall that had been occupied by some of these student demonstrators and outside agitators. We are learning at this hour, we know we've been on this story for 2+ hours now, Hamilton Hall is now cleared. According to the Associated Press, more than 30 to 40 demonstrators have been arrested. And the hall is now empty of them. Their belongings remain. They're still kind of taking out detritus, and nonetheless, we're going to stay with this story as well. We'll see whether or not some of the NYPD officials do hold more of a formal press conference to kind of explain to us what exactly transpired tonight. But we want to thank you for being with us here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, though, we'll be diving into one of the main reasons why so many of these demonstrators, students across the country on college campuses, have taken up this protest movement. That, of course, is the Israel-Hamas war. A live now look there in southern Israel, looking into the Gaza Strip. We'll be diving into the developments of that and how they tie in with this burgeoning protest movement here stateside. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Well, it looks like I may be out of a job unless I turn to TikTok. It seems that has fast become the #1 source for financial information among young people. Trends like loud budgeting, frugal February, and the 100-envelope challenge have won the trust of followers, but experts warn, be careful whose advice you take. Just because a tip is trending doesn't make it true. I'm Steve Noviello. That's my 2 cents. Spend it wisely.
I'm Heather Sullivan with Sullivan Smart Sense. Rental prices have skyrocketed 18% in 2
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
There is one new tornado warning for Oklahoma and Texas.
Uh, 24 hours ago by pro-Palestinian demonstrators, Gaza war protesters, and speaking of the Israel-Hamas war, as it nears the 7-month mark since October the 7th. You can see this live picture we have.
This is a tornado warning.
Israeli leader not backing doubling down, saying that a Rafah invasion and operation will happen with or without a hostage deal with Hamas. Fox's Rebecca Castor has more from Washington. Let's listen.
While negotiations over a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas continue, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's still planning to invade the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Despite
sharing your experience, I'm so glad you guys are okay after this event and able to share that, because I think it's poignant and I think it's powerful as two brothers coming together.
Yeah.
And it's a story that so many can resonate to, and we're talking about that severe weather again tonight, so hopefully lessons are learned from your story. So Royce and Roger Slatton, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
And Sulphur, Oklahoma was one town of many that has been ravaged by last weekend's tornado outbreak. Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell takes us there to look into how the town is starting to sift through the debris.
We're just getting a closer look into the downtown area of Sulphur, Oklahoma. This is what we're seeing after a high-end tornado just really ripped through this city center. In this pile, you can see wood pieces, metal, concrete, all of it just pushed to the side after it was really covering these roads. But even more striking, just the sheet metal wrapped around this light pole and now broken tree. But what's more important that you can see behind me, the volunteers helping store owners to clear out what they can. As we're learning, officials here that are monitoring this area, they're not too sure about just how safe it is for people to get back in again, and it's just days after the storm passed. We're speaking with these business owners while they're here in these moments about what it was like and what they're dealing with going forward.
We're just all kind of numb still, and very grateful that all but one person, survived. So this can be replaced.
We got in this morning and really took matters into our own hands, and we're getting everything out to really demolish and start over.
Now, meanwhile, in the downtown area, you can see there's a heavy law enforcement presence as they're making sure everyone is safe down here. If we take a look over here, this entire block has been deemed unsafe for now, so no one's allowed there. It's actually where one of 4 deaths occurred from that tornadic outbreak. Just on the corner, they found a woman there. On the upside, we are learning of those survival stories. Deep in the neighborhoods, there are 75 homes at least that were impacted. We spoke with one young man who told us the story of how he was in his trailer home sleeping and woke up moments before the tornado hit.
I just know that it lifted up, it dropped me over here by where their storm cellar is and everything, and then, dude, I'm just getting drenched by water at that point. You know what I mean? I was inside and then I'm outside, and it was just like, I'm looking around, I'm just sitting in this debris.
All right, now on top of the cleanup, volunteers, they're finding even pets, this little kitty that was hiding, taking shelter in a basement after that tornadic outbreak on Saturday. But things are looking up for the folks here, some of them deciding to rebuild and get things cleaned up. Reporting here from Sulphur, Oklahoma, I'm Brandy Campbell for Fox Weather.
Hoping Brandy took that little kitty home. But check out this time lapse of a drone shot just outside of Lincoln, Nebraska as the tornado began to form. We have a lot more on the tornado outbreak and the coverage coming up next. You're watching Fox Weather at Night.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Go to inventhelp.com now and get free information on how to get started today. InventHelp provides invention services that help everyday inventors get started with their idea. We have representatives nationwide who will explain the InventHelp process step by step. Over 10,000 patents have been secured through InventHelp's patent referral services. Our services include professional materials needed to showcase your invention, and 3D animation and prototype modeling that help you demonstrate your idea. Get down to the details of your idea with a technical drawing. The InventHelp Databank includes thousands of companies who have agreed to review new ideas. We've been helping inventors since 1984. Let's help you next. Take advantage of the opportunity to get started today. Go to inventhelp.com for free information.
And look at this video coming out of Sulphur, Oklahoma, just an ominous video. This was taken in the peak of nighttime. That unfortunately led to the severity of the situation as the tornadoes just ravaged towns in southern Oklahoma. A dangerous stretch of weather that's come out of the weekend, and we're still seeing a dangerous stretch of weather moving forward. On Wednesday, we are looking at a threat for tornadoes, but primarily going to be damaging wind and hail. But with tornadoes being on the forefront of everybody's mind, that's something I do want to highlight, as that is a possibility. And over the course of Tuesday evening, we have even seen some confirmed tornado warnings as well. But with this severe storm threat on Wednesday, we overlaid the threats that have come out, or the tornadoes rather, that have come out of the weekend's event. We had over 100 tornadoes, some of which as strong as an EF4. But it's the same communities getting hit once again with the severe weather. Thankfully, though, that level 2, level 3 threat just displaced ever so slightly out towards the west of where the bulk of the weather came through over the weekend. So that is at least one small detail that could make a pretty big difference. The exclusive Fox model showing you that by the afternoon we will see storms fire up across northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, and into Missouri as well. But then we have to watch what happens on the back end as these storms fire up across the dry line. This will bring heavy thunderstorms to Oklahoma. Similar areas such as Sulphur, Oklahoma, Holdenville, Oklahoma could see these really strong storms come through, as well as the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But we can't underscore what's going on up towards the north as well. We still will see some thunderstorms, maybe some hail as well, preceding this warm front with the elevated storm. So Omaha, Nebraska could see some more hail. And no matter what, if we talk wind gusts on an area that has already seen debris and still has debris laying all over the ground, that can create these sort of flying missiles that can be very dangerous as well. So if you see a heavy thunderstorm coming in, you're out, you're helping your community pick up the pieces, go indoors, take a break for a minute, let the storms pass, because that can be very dangerous. Even deadly if we really want to take it that far. But thankfully that tornado threat a little bit farther out towards the west, so that is some good news there. The next 3 days, though, we are watching the threat for severe storms. Thursday, Omaha watching thunderstorms, Des Moines thunderstorms, Kansas City thunderstorms. So it is going to be not only a Wednesday threat, we'll take it into Thursday as well. Elkhorn, Nebraska, one location that has seen some significant damage from the weekend. Showers on Wednesday, thunderstorms Thursday. Things will clear up and be a lot better as we head into the weekend, although a little bit of rain to contend with on to Saturday. So thankfully, when a lot of folks head out to help these communities, the weekend looks a lot better.
There is one new tornado
Cleaning up
warning
after
for
a disaster as
Oklahoma.
intense as a tornado takes a lot of work for a community. Fortunately, there is no shortage of volunteers heading to Elkhorn, Nebraska to help take care of the damage. Nicole Valdez is in Elkhorn tracking the recovery efforts and showing the resiliency of the Cornhusker State.
Fox Weather's Nicole Valdez is in Elkhorn, Nebraska for us this morning. Nicole, it does look like there have been plenty of volunteers out there assisting with the cleanup, and that's even after a quick hit of a storm this morning.
Yeah, Stephen, what an interesting morning it's been out here. We had that band of storms move through, making it a little bit complicated, a little bit dangerous to be out here. But once that line passed over Elkhorn, these volunteers showed up in droves, several hundred at the very least, I'm told, all here in part with Omaha Rapid Response, one of the bigger nonprofits, really organizing a lot of the volunteer effort.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
Of just how many people are out here, and it's a marvel to look at, and you sort of see the different piles of debris, and you lose count of how many hands are doing the heavy lifting, picking up bricks, cinder blocks, wood pilings, pieces of roofs, furniture, and moving it all closer to the curb so that these large, big machines, these forklifts, can get their hands on it and get it all taken care of. You see mattresses here, you see dressers. I mean, this is the hard work that they've been putting in for the last few days. And again, we're seeing the same effort today. Maybe a little bit more of a renewed response, knowing what's to come later this afternoon. I think this crew here is very aware that there is that chance for severe storms later this afternoon. So they wanted to get out here as early as they could to try to make as much progress before that storm really made this maybe too dangerous to do at that point. But it's incredible. And you know, people here, some of them don't live in Omaha. Some have come from towns much further outside of the city, if not even the state, to lend a helping hand, recognizing that the need is dire still today. We know there have been more resources heading this way, including those from the state, the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, nearby churches, even grocery stores. They are bringing in everything they've got by the truckload for the families who have lost everything, recognizing that there's never enough help. But again, I got to bring it back to these people, because these are the ones who are putting in the work and making the difference out here. So as we eye those storms, we know that it's set to happen starting earlier in the afternoon here in Omaha area, in the Elkhorn area. We're hoping that everyone here has a safe place to get to. We know nearby churches have made sure to open up shelters for the victims, those survivors here. But it's going to really be a sort of a wait and see, I think, scenario as we take a look at what those storms do for this area and whether they're able to get back to their cleanup or whether they'll have more destruction to tend with. Maybe not necessarily as bad, but if you get a big rainstorm, if you get some strong winds, all of this debris you see on the side of the roads here could start to blow away once again. And you've got these people who are trying to, again, sort of gather everything. So it's not going to make things any easier, Stephen, but clearly I think people recognize here, let's try to get as much cleaned up as we can before we face that threat head on.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see yet again.
This is a tornado warning.
Despite the weather and the storms which are to come, which we'll get into, Fox Weather's Nicole Valdez from Elkhorn.
Even days after the tornado outbreak, Fox Weather is still getting new videos and stories of damage in the Midwest. This morning, we spoke with the pastor at Harvest Alliance Church in Minden, which was unfortunately destroyed. Take a listen.
So I was at home with my family. We actually live in a neighboring community up in Heartland, and kind of watching the track of the tornado starting down in Trainer area, and just kind of communicating with my people along the path, having them go shelter in place and get in the basements. And then as we kind of realized that it was going to hit Minden, I had to wait and see if it was going to hit Harlan, and then drove down afterwards. We couldn't get into town because of a gas leak, but we could see that the church had some extensive damage. But then it wasn't until Saturday when I got up there to see just how bad it was.
And Pastor, there's always questions too, especially when you're watching the storm. Well, maybe the tornado's going to miss. It looks like by all signs of it that the church took a direct hit. You filmed that video, and correct me, I think, did I hear you reference a tire? Is there a significance to the tire? And I understand in these things, we mentioned it last hour, when so much devastation's around you, all that you have is your faith or something that symbolizes it. What's the story with the tire?
So the tire was used about 6 years ago with the Revelation wellness program that one of the congregants did, and it just hasn't left in 6 years since it's been used. And it was sitting up against the storage container. The storage container is gone. We have no clue where that went, but the tire remains.
Wild.
So it's just some of the small things that you get to chuckle about in the midst of tragedy.
Totally.
I mean, it's those little things, as you mentioned, when it comes to your faith and seeing everything. I want to ask you too, so at the timing of the tornado, nobody was in the church, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then, have parishioners, have people been able to come back and also just kind of evaluate what's happened and what is, I think, what is getting you guys through this?
So right now, it's still kind of residents only in Minden. Okay. It's going to be a little bit more lenient coming this week. We've got a lot of power outages and things like that the linemen and the crews have been just doing such a wonderful job with and kind of clearing off the streets of you guys have been talking about already this morning. So a lot of the congregants haven't really been to the site. And then, this past Sunday, we just met in a local community center and helped organize donations, just kind of doing what we can. Samaritan's Purse is actually now on our parking lot. So pretty soon volunteers are going to be coming in. So we're going to be getting that organized.
First question is if you guys were able to host in some capacity services on Sunday, assuming that's when you observe your services, the Sabbath, and then furthermore, the tough conversations that follow after one of these events. It is a miracle that Iowa and Nebraska, as far as no fatalities were concerned. That same can't be said, say, in the state of Oklahoma, and perhaps going down the road. How are you managing those tough conversations, just looking at the devastation around you?
Yeah, actually, we did find out that we had one person in Minden that passed away on Sunday, just from injuries from the tornado. Obviously, we're going to try to rebuild in the future, but we want to help the community first and try to get everything cleaned up there. We'll have to find a temporary place to worship, and there's been numerous churches and organizations that have contacted me over the last weekend offering their space for us to meet and just wanting to come alongside of us in that. Just trying to stay encouraging and just, the church, the building itself is just 4 walls, but the church itself is the people. So it's an opportunity to take down those walls and go out into the community.
And it is one of those moments where the church becomes critically important more than ever, right? Because now you were in it, your family, you were in it, and you're also there as this, really this beacon of light for so many people that are going to be leaning on you. So we appreciate you sharing your story. We wish you the best of luck moving forward. Good luck, and thank you for checking in. Harvest Alliance Church Pastor Kurt Barman, good luck as you move forward.
Thanks. Have a great day.
And a sign of hope amid the destruction in Elkhorn, Nebraska. This from Nicole Valdez. We'll continue to bring you the stories of all those impacted by those deadly storms. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching Fox Weather at Night.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for Oklahoma.
Coming in. Thanks, Alfred.
Dad, how many times have I told you just download the app?
Control your garage from anywhere. Download MyQ today. At Rue La La, feel like $1,000,000 without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now and get this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. This book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms that can help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. And if you call right now, as a bonus, we'll throw in a free annuity rate report. We've researched over 1,200 annuities summarizing the rates and benefits for you. So don't miss out on this opportunity because supplies are limited. Call now and find out how you can get up to 33% more income in your retirement, and you'll receive Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report as an added bonus. Both books are yours free, just for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-257-3901. That's 800-257-3901. Again, 800-257-3901.
He had to have 17 teeth removed.
He has an appetite that can never be satisfied, which is why he's trying to eat rocks.
He ate beef and had an allergic reaction, and I was like, have I killed my dog?
He had a bypass surgery because he ate a sock.
Fetch provides coverage for all of this and so much more. Get paid back up to 90% on unexpected vet bills. Use any vet and cancel anytime. Fetch, the most comprehensive pet insurance. Get your free quote today.
And tonight on Fox Weather, we're continuing to track the recovery efforts underway for communities impacted by last weekend's tornado outbreak. We spoke with Chickasaw Nation Emergency Management about how their team is handling the situation.
The rescue phase is completed, so right now we're just trying to put things back together. As far as that, we have a mobile medical unit that's on the grounds here at the Artesian Hotel in Sulphur. We've also got our emergency management team. We've got our Chickasaw Light Horse Police that are blocking roads and providing security to those affected areas. We've also provided our vans for transportation to take workers down in the affected areas that are not open to the public at this time.
And Steve, my question for you is, we have a lot of viewers that want to do something. They want to help. They see the community, individuals gathering around and helping each other. And, they see forces like you and your team on the ground. What can folks do to help and support your cause?
The main thing that we want to mention is they need to check in with the Incident Command, which is located at the Murray County Agriplex building or show barns, and basically make sure that people are aware that they're there so they can kind of account for the areas affected. Just showing up on scene without checking in, it's really hinders the process of recovery. We've also got the Red Cross here that's stationed next to our medical folks that are available on scene to assist with bumps, bruises, nails. When you start digging through the rubble, you're going to have a lot of injuries in the area, and that alleviates the emergency rooms here in the local area as well.
Yeah. Steve, tell me, bring me back to the moment that you guys got to Sulphur and you actually visualized this for the first time. What did it look like to you?
Michael, it was pretty overwhelming. At first, we had to make the call to even let our guys respond, or our team respond. We had several more tornadoes that were impacting the area. So to get them down there safely and to the affected areas, it was like a war zone. I mean, we had people doing triage in the affected areas. So we made sure that they were treated and we took care of them as soon as possible. So it was really a devastating moment to see a neighborhood that you've spent so much time in. We just last couple of weeks ago, we had the Artesian Arts Festival, the Chickasaw Nation hosted here, and it was really to look at those same streets and have debris and rubble all over. It was just unspeakable. I mean, hard to imagine.
You know, Steve, I can imagine too that, you know, when you first get to the scene, you know, there's so much adrenaline that you feel, that the people around you are feeling. But then the reality of what happened and just the magnitude starts to set in. You know, we have more storms that are on the way. Talk to me about, is there a sense of storm fatigue in the community?
I believe so. I think you run off adrenaline the first couple of days, and then it sets in that